It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, anger in Westminster over claims that China is attempting to interfere in democracy in the UK. MI5 says Beijing is trying to recruit and cultivate those with access to sensitive information about Parliament and the government, often masked through cover companies. 2 headhunters were named today by the security services, accused of using LinkedIn to reach their targets. China says the claims are a self-staged charade. We'll discuss how the government plans to respond. Also ahead tonight, a man admits selling substances online to help people take their own lives. Miles Cross pleaded guilty to encouraging or assisting suicide following the deaths of 2 people who had bought chemicals from him for just £100. Plus, we'll get the view from the Home Secretary's home city after Shabana Mahmood set out radical plans to change asylum rules, claiming the current system is fueling a rise in racism. And good news for fans of live music, with the resale of gig tickets for profit set to be banned. But is it enough to stop the touts? All that to come, and much more on the UK Tonight. But first tonight, the breaking news from Washington, where in the past few minutes, the House of Representatives has voted to release the Epstein files. Tens of thousands of documents relating to the paedophile financier are now one step closer to being made public. The matter is now going to go to the Senate and then to President Trump. Let's bring in our US correspondent, David Blevins, who joins us now live from Washington. So, David, talk us through the timeline of what happens next.
Well, it is a significant moment indeed. 427 votes to 1 on Capitol Hill in the House of Representatives. That is overwhelming. And it does now move to the Senate. Democrats are concerned because Republicans have a 3-seat majority in the Senate that they may seek to amend the bill, and that would mean it having to go back to the House of Representatives for another vote. But I think given the scale of the vote tonight, it's increasingly difficult for Republicans to push back on this. So if the Senate were to follow the example of the House and to vote it through with a 2/3 majority, then the president doesn't have a veto. It does land on his desk, and Donald Trump would have no option but to sign this bill calling for the release of the Epstein files in full. It has been a significant campaign by victims and in recent weeks by the Democratic Party. And my colleague James Matthews caught up with one of the congressmen who's been leading that campaign, Thomas Massey.
What do you say to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? I wonder, what do you say today to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the man formerly known as Prince Andrew?
Well, you know, there's becoming a reckoning in Britain that needs to happen in the United States. A prince lost his title. The ambassador to the United States lost his job. We need to see those same kind of consequences here. As my colleague Rose said, there shouldn't be buildings named after these perpetrators of these heinous crimes. There shouldn't be scholarships named after them. And there needs to be accounting. We've seen tens of thousands of pages released by the Oversight Committee. What we've not seen is a single name. So I implore you to look and see if we have true justice and transparency.
What do you say to Andrew today?
And the survivors will know when that has happened.
What do you say to Andrew today?
I think that Prince Andrew does need to come and testify at our Oversight Committee, and that can be bipartisan. But I share Thomas's view that the urgency that the British people have shown in getting justice needs to inspire an urgency here in America.
So a lot of focus on the former Prince Andrew on Capitol Hill again today, and that is because things have moved very quickly since the Oversight Committee released 23,000 documents from the Epstein estate last week, and it is that same congressional committee that has written to Prince Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, at least the Democratic members of that committee, summoning him to appear before them to answer questions also on Capitol Hill. In fact, just moments before the vote took place in the House of Representatives this evening, Congressman Jamie Raskin, a Democrat, said even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about American democracy no longer putting up with this. So it's the British monarchy's position in relation to the Epstein issue has been front and centre in terms of the build-up to this vote today, and it's something that the survivors of Epstein have also been talking about. James Matthews has also been speaking to one of them, Marina Lacerda.
What would you say to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor today?
I have a lot to say to Prince Andrews. I think he needs to step up to the plate and, speak when he needs to speak and say what he needs to say and just be clean about what he did.
Why is that? Why is it important?
I think it's important for all American people, not only for the survivors, but for everyone to be transparent and just to... It's all written in Virginia's book, and everybody knows it by now. It's time for that.
It's hard to believe that it's less than a week since the Oversight Committee released those 20,000-odd documents from the Epstein estate. Things have moved very fast since then. 4 Republicans effectively crossing the aisle to align with Democrats to ensure this vote took place. One of those Republicans, a woman very well known in the United States, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from Georgia. She was, until now, one of Donald Trump's closest allies. In recent days, he's been describing her as Marjorie Traitor Greene. She says she's not a traitor, that she's simply been standing with the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes to demand justice. But I think it was that change of heart among many within his own MAGA base that has really shifted things. And this evening now, off the back of this vote, the first of 3 significant hurdles has been cleared, and we are much closer, I think, to the moment when the files related to Jeffrey Epstein may be released in full.
David, thank you. David Blevins with the latest from Washington on that breaking news this evening. MI5 has warned that figures linked to the Chinese intelligence services are seeking to recruit people inside UK Parliament to spy for them. The warning from the security service was issued to MPs, peers and parliamentary staff, with intelligence suggesting spies are posing as headhunters on sites that include LinkedIn. Our political correspondent Mari Aurora has this report.
Behind a year of niceties between Westminster and Beijing, serious security concerns from the heart of the Chinese state. Not for the first time this year, we're talking about allegations of spying within Westminster backed by the Chinese government. This time, a stark warning direct from MI5. In a letter to parliamentary staff, Commons Speaker Lindsay Hoyle warns the Chinese Ministry of State Security is actively reaching out to individuals in our community. Their aim is to collect information and lay the groundwork for long-term relationships. The alert explicitly accuses 2 people, Amanda Chiu and Shirley Shen, of posing as headhunters on LinkedIn to reach out to people in Parliament. Both have been approached for comment.
That job is...
The government warns the threat extends beyond parliamentarians.
Let me speak plainly. This activity involves a covert and calculated attempt by a foreign power to interfere with our sovereign affairs in favour of its own interests, and this government will not tolerate it.
The government has reacted with fresh measures: new funding for security programmes, briefings for political parties and election candidates, and working with recruitment sites like LinkedIn to clamp down on spying. But the opposition says the government should be tougher.
It can impose sanctions, it can cancel propaganda visits to China, and it can put the Chinese Communist Party in the enhanced tier. When they do any of these, we will be here and ready to help.
A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy dismissed the allegations as pure fabrication and malicious slander, adding, "We urge the UK side to immediately stop this self-staged charade of false accusations and self-aggrandisement, and stop going further down the wrong path of undermining China-UK relations." These fresh allegations come weeks after the collapse of the case into 2 men accused of spying for China around Westminster, accusations both men continue to deny. And repeatedly delayed plans for a Chinese super embassy in central London have become a flashpoint in the discussion around UK-China relations. With a decision due next month, China has warned of consequences if a decision continues to be pushed back. Experts warn this is not just a Westminster problem.
We know from previous cases
that tens of thousands of people are being approached right across the UK economy. So it's not even especially Parliament, it's actually more likely to be businesses. And businesses are very much more exposed, more susceptible.
The government is walking a tightrope between wanting to look tough on China and keeping trade doors open with an economic superpower. But with repeated allegations like this, MPs are mounting pressure on the government to take bigger steps, as far as labelling China a national security threat. With future diplomatic visits to Beijing not off the table, allegations of spying only serve to hinder the relationship between the two nations. Mari Aurora, Sky News.
Well, let's bring in now Julian Richards, former intelligence analyst at GCHQ. Good of you to join us tonight on the programme. Thank you so much. We had the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, there today saying that the UK will not tolerate Chinese spying. Is it fair to say that it has done up until now?
Well, it's been very aware of the situation. It's been monitoring it. It's been looking at the scale of it. Of course, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes in the intelligence services. But I think it's reaching a critical threshold now in terms of the sheer scale and audacity of it, that they obviously felt something had to be said now.
Yeah, when we talk about China being a significant threat to the UK, can you break it down for people at home? What exactly does that look like?
Well, it's a range of three things, really. I mean, the Chinese intelligence services they'll be wanting to target dissidents and political troublemakers, Tibetans and so on, but they also want to be conducting industrial espionage here, and UK is a key technology target for that sort of espionage. And longer term, they want to create channels of influence, political influence, to recruit decision makers, politicians, staff working for them, not just to shape the narrative in favourable ways for China, but also to maybe influence future legislation or policy. So it's a far-reaching and multifaceted threat.
How does the government get tough on it? Because spying for China seems to be as easy as, creating a contact on LinkedIn, a bit of professional flattery and you're in.
Well, it's a real spectrum of activity, which at the lower levels, of course, is not necessarily particularly threatening or dangerous, but it's where it tips over, where a contact with a political researcher or member of staff in the Houses of Parliament, or even an academic or a businessman starts to become a little bit more, where money is offered for particular information, where invites are made. The Chinese intelligence services like to eventually invite people to China because they feel they have more control over situations then. So it's a question of, not every approach, of course, is going to be sinister or dangerous, but it's a question of raising awareness about where those approaches start to tip over into something more sinister.
Yeah, I'm interested in the low level entry points, if you like. Again, Dan Jarvis saying China has a low threshold for what is useful. What information does China deem useful?
Well, everything, basically. China has the scale of resource. Their intelligence services and the people who work in and around them are absolutely enormous compared to any of our countries. And they seem to be engaged in a comprehensive collection of absolutely everything that moves. And they can start to do that now because of AI technologies that can gather and analyze increasingly large amounts of data. So the strategy seems to be to collect absolutely everything and spool it into massive databases and then try to pick out the things that will be useful for them.
Is the UK government pretty weak when it comes to standing up to China in comparison to other countries? Because, there was a big row over whether the UK officially deemed them a threat. We all remember that. Yes, we do see them as a threat. No, we don't. Is it official? Is it not? In comparison to other countries around the world, other Western nations, where does the UK sit on a scale of showing strength to China?
Well, as your correspondent said earlier, it is a complicated situation for the UK. The UK has massive economic and industrial interests in China. The Chancellor has said that To turn away from China is not a choice at all. And UK is the third largest recipient of investment from China in the world after the US and Australia. So there are massive economic benefits, and we have to balance those. And at times in the past, that maybe has been a cause for not being as robust as we should have been. So today is really significant. The robustness of this statement, the ripples that it will be causing, not just here, but over in China, are very significant. Of course, we'll have to see carefully how that affects the relationship.
Yeah, it's a real show of strength, isn't it? But, you know, privy to the information you have been in the past and what you know about this relationship, and, you know, spying has always gone on. As you said, the UK has monitored that, now seems to be getting tough on it. Is it always going to be a trade-off, a compromise, rather than a total clampdown because of that relationship when it comes to trade between the UK and China?
Yes, it is. Of course it is. And particularly, you know, this is the second largest economy in the world. It's going to be the biggest in time. So there are trade-offs to be made. And it's worth saying that everyone gathers intelligence on everyone else. We gather intelligence on China. We're doing some of this stuff ourselves. But I think it's the scale and the nature of it now that's reaching new heights, partly fueled by AI technologies and so on. And the intent to obviously establish political influence that really takes this to a new and more dangerous level.
Julian Richards, really good to talk to you, former intelligence analyst at GCHQ. Thanks for your time tonight. A man has pleaded guilty to selling chemicals online to help people take their own lives. 33-year-old Miles Cross admitted 4 charges of an intentional act capable of encouraging or helping the suicide of someone else. Sky's Katerina Vitozzi has the latest from Moel Crown Court in North Wales.
This was described as an unusual but extremely worrying case by the judge here at Moel Crown Court. Miles Cross, who's 33 today, pleaded guilty to encouraging or assisting suicide in relation to 4 people who he had met on an online forum and sent a chemical substance. Now, according to the Crown Prosecution Service, Mr. Cross set up a business in July last year, and he went online onto a discussion forum and posted a QR code through which people could order this chemical substance and get it sent to them and make a payment directly into his bank account. 4 people did that. They sent him £100 each, and Mr. Cross then sent them this chemical substance through the post. One person, after being sent that substance, did die through suicide, a woman in her 20s, Shubreet Singh from West Yorkshire. The 3 other victims in this case are still alive. But as part of their wider investigation, North Wales Police are also investigating a second suicide related to substances sent by Mr. Cross through the post after being sold online. The Crown Prosecution Service, shortly after Mr. Cross pleaded guilty to those charges today, released this statement where they said that Miles Cross preyed on 4 people in a distressed state and knowingly provided a substance intended to end their lives. His actions were purely for financial gain, and he made the process of ordering the chemical online easy and accessible. This case is a stark reminder of the dangers posed by those who aim to exploit vulnerable individuals online. And as I said, 4 people did pay Mr. Cross for this substance, paying him £100 each. Mr. Cross was released on bail after pleading guilty today. He didn't respond to any of our questions that we put to him. He'll be sentenced here in January. It was indicated by the judge of the court that that would be a custodial sentence.
And if you've been affected by that story, you can contact the Samaritans at any time. Their number is 116123, or you can email joe@samaritans.org. A court has heard that a 13-year-old girl accused of murdering a woman in a pre-planned attack allegedly stabbed the victim more than 140 times. Jurors were told the teenager conducted online research before the death of 43-year-old Marta Bednarczyk, whose body was found burnt in a house fire. Well, Olivia Guthrie joins me now for more on this story. It's a really grim tale, Olivia.
It's an extremely distressing case, and I should probably warn our viewers that some of the details they may find that I'm about to tell you are upsetting. Now, this girl, who can't be named for legal reasons, was in court today to hear the prosecution outlining their case against her. They told the jurors that the 13-year-old used more than one knife to inflict 143 wounds on her victim, including 65 to her face and neck. That victim was mother of three, Marta Bednarczyk, who was 43 years old. Fire crews finding her body in that burnt-out house in Wellingborough in Northampton in March. Now, the teenager denies murdering Marta, but she has admitted unlawfully killing her on the grounds of diminished responsibility, something that the prosecution very much rejected today, saying that girl had Googled how long a sentence a 13-year-old who'd been convicted of murder would get before killing Marta, and she texted her friends to say that she wouldn't be in school for some time. This was, say the prosecution, very much a premeditated murder. Now, the girl initially blamed a third party for Marta's death, but police say that she was seen smiling in the immediate aftermath of Marta's death. The prosecution say that the sad truth is that we may never know why what happened to Marta happened. This trial is taking place in Lincoln Magistrates Court, which is sitting as a Crown Court, but the judge and the lawyers are just wearing suits. There are no wigs or gowns, and the court hours are going to be shorter to reflect school hours, all because of the age of this defendant. The trial's expected to continue until the early part of next month.
OK, Olivia, thank you. Olivia Guthrie there with the latest on that case. Thank you. Still to come on the UK Tonight, why survivors of female genital mutilation in the UK are forced to go abroad for surgery. We have a special report coming up for you.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Across Europe, hundreds of thousands of women live with the consequences of female genital mutilation, or FGM. In the UK alone, more than 87,000 FGM-related medical cases have been recorded since 2015, but reconstruction surgery remains unavailable on the NHS, forcing women to seek help abroad. Sky News has been granted unprecedented access to an operating theatre in Geneva, where one of the world's leading surgeons performs this surgery. Our health correspondent Ashish Joshi has more, and a warning: you may find some of the descriptions in his report upsetting.
Professor Jasmine Abdul-Qadir is performing surgery. But to her patient, this is more than just a medical procedure. It's the most important part of a long journey to help overcome deep trauma inflicted on her as a young child. The patient is a woman in her late 30s to mid-40s. As a young girl, she was subjected to female genital mutilation.
There are several types of female genital mutilation, so the tissues involved might be diverse. It can be the labia, the clitoris, and the cutting might be more or less severe. So there are different types of surgeries.
This patient has had type 3 FGM, infibulation. It's the most severe form, where all or part of the external female genitalia has been removed. The vaginal opening has been sewn shut, or the scar tissue has fused together after being cut. These cases require de-infibulation or reopening.
Voila. It means to avoid suffering when they pee, when they have period, in their daily life, when they study, when they work, when they take care of their families.
Her vaginal passage was partially reopened in the past, probably during childbirth.
Sensitive nerves, but that have also branches of the cavernous nerves.
Today, she has chosen to undergo clitoral reconstruction.
We have patients that might not be interested in reconstruction, that they already feel well, sexually healthy, and other patients that suffer from severe trauma, that are unhappy with their body image, and so they will ask for reconstruction. Some of them will go for surgery, some others will not go for surgery.
Every girl who came in came out crying, screaming. I didn't want to go in, but they forced me, and when I went in, she cut me with a blade. I jumped from the pain. All the girls were crying. I didn't want to, but they forced me.
This is one of Professor Abdul-Qadir's patients. Jamila, that's not her real name, is still recovering after undergoing FGM reconstruction surgery last month.
I was angry because I was just a child. I always think about it. It's something that never leaves you. You think about it all the time.
Professor Abdul-Qadir's team see between 20 to 30 FGM survivors a month here at Geneva's University Hospital. Not all of them will opt for reconstructive surgery, but the ones who do can access it on the country's healthcare system. FGM reconstruction surgery is available across Europe, including here in Switzerland, as well as in clinics in France and in Germany. But in the UK, the procedure is not available on the NHS, meaning many British FGM survivors must travel abroad for help. The demand for the surgery in the UK is growing.
We do find women coming to our clinic saying they want reconstruction surgery, and we have to say, sorry, we don't offer it here. Some of them will seek out going to have it done in another country, perhaps, which is obviously very costly. And some of them don't manage to get any support for that.
A parliamentary committee warned that FGM survivors face shame and humiliation when trying to access care. It's called on the NHS to provide reconstruction surgery.
In an ideal situation, it would be available to everybody on everybody's doorstep.
Can we put a timeline on it?
I would want to see that as soon as possible. I want GPs to have better understanding of FGM and reconstructive surgery. I want people to know that this is still an issue for so many women within our communities.
The Department for Health and Social Care told Sky News the NHS runs FGM clinics which provide healthcare services and emotional and psychological support for victims. We're also facilitating further research into the effectiveness of reconstructive surgery for FGM survivors through the National Institute for Health and Care Research. FGM reconstruction surgery cannot erase the violence or the pain, but it can offer something many survivors feared they would never have. And that is the chance to reclaim their bodies after a lifetime of trauma. Ashish Joshi, Sky News in Geneva, Switzerland.
Still to come on the UK tonight, the Princess of Wales calls on businesses to value time and tenderness in her first major speech in 2 years. And we'll find out whether the government's plans to clamp down on ticket resales for profit will be enough to stop the touts. The government is set to ban the resale of tickets for a profit as part of a crackdown on touts. The plans are set to be unveiled tomorrow, with ministers understood to have decided that tickets should only be resold at their original price. It comes as the competition regulator launched investigations into 8 companies that included StubHub and Viagogo over their online pricing practices. Well, joining me now, ticket fraud expert and director of the Iridium consultancy, Reg Walker. Reg, good to see you once again discussing tickets. It seems we've got significant movement on this from the government. What do you think about their plans ahead of tomorrow?
I think it's absolutely huge. I mean, to cap tickets at the price that you paid, I think is the only solution moving forward. Anything would have added on 10 or 20% would have allowed touts to carry on continuing harvesting in bulk and making a significant profit. But I do think the devil's going to be in the detail. I'm a bit disturbed not to see any involvement from National Trading Standards, who have significant experience of dealing with serious and organised crime. And that's what touting has become. And they have the only track record in prosecuting and successfully convicting some of the worst offenders. The CMA, unfortunately, has had 8 years of looking at the secondary market and singularly failed to successfully prosecute anyone.
Do you think new legislation will perhaps give them more teeth, or do you think that this market, this business, this multi-million-pound global business is perhaps too big for them?
I don't think it's too big for them. I mean, the CMA is an enormous organisation. It's meant to be our premier enforcement agency, but it's still limited on powers. They're intending to use an act that was passed last year, which effectively gives them the power to fine breaches of legislation up to 10% of a company's global turnover. But what they don't have is they have no powers to investigate fraud. And what we've seen on the companies they've been monitoring is industrial scale fraud over the last 8 years and some quite egregious offences. And they've simply not had the powers to tackle that. National Trading Standards, on the other hand, they do have powers to investigate fraud. They have great powers to protect consumers, and yet they don't seem to be involved in this yet.
Yeah, when you talk about fraud, can you give me some examples? Because most fans, when they go to buy a ticket for a gig, you know, if they wait hours online and don't get that one, they will go to those resale sites and, you know, worst case scenario, they could be paying, you know, 60% above what was the original face value. But when you talk about fraud, get into the weeds of that for us. What's actually going on online when it comes to ticket resale?
There are two types of fraud that occur on these websites. The first one is touts using sophisticated software, queue jumping technology. For the last 18 months, nearly 2 years, we've seen AI bots being used. We've seen software that creates synthetic identities using other genuine people's identities and addresses without their knowledge in order to attack ticketing systems and effectively block out genuine fans from being able to purchase. Those tickets are acquired fraudulently. These are very clear fraud offences. Those tickets then flipped over onto the resale platforms. They are the product of a criminal offence. They're criminal property, and then they're resold through these platforms. The second one, and the more egregious, is where you have, and we've seen hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of tickets at a time listed on these so-called regulated platforms that simply do not exist because we found them still for sale on the primary ticket agent on Ticketmaster, the identical ticket down to seat, block and row. So there's no mistake in the fact that people are able to commit industrial scale fraud, offer tickets for sale that they clearly don't have on these platforms, and nobody's holding them to account.
It's incredible, isn't it? I remember the day when you had to ring up Wembley box office or go and queue at Wembley to get a ticket. We're a long way since then. So in terms of the ideal scenario out of this legislation, what will it look like for fans trying to buy tickets? Because the thing is, the demand is there, and the worry is this legislation will clamp down on the sites that we know about. But we do know that, you know, an online platform is global. These websites can operate out of Dubai, for example, just picking something out of the air. There are ways and means. So what will it actually look like once this legislation comes in, do you think?
What should happen is that, and the legislation seems quite narrow, it deals with organisations and websites that are targeting UK fans and UK consumers. Well, that's simply insufficient. We need to do what we did for the London 2012 Olympics. We pass supranational legislation that makes it an offence anywhere in the world. And then you can tackle offshoring where websites are set up in Spain, or as you pointed out there, and you did hit the nail on the head, Dubai, where tickets are simply harvested and then bounced off those websites. In order to stop that, you need supranational legislation, you need enforcement, you need the ability to black hole these websites or get the domain name suspended, which effectively takes them offline. That will guarantee that the legislation is enforced. What's currently there in this press release for tomorrow doesn't cover some of that, and that does concern me.
In terms of the sites that are getting it right, because there are a few about now that sell tickets at face value. You know, I've used them before. I know a lot of people do. What's their business model like? Because obviously the leisure sector needs the cash. Ticket touts are abusing that and taking money off real fans, hundreds of pounds in some cases, thousands of pounds. You know, how is this other model, this fairer model, this good model working? Is that an effective business?
It seems to be. There's been a number of companies that started a few years ago that are face value resale sites that more often than not, some of the artists partner with. They're not the big companies that offer resale services. These aren't offshoots of Ticketmaster. These are standalone resale platforms, and they do quite well. They provide a great service for genuine fans to be able to resell tickets they can no longer use at face value. Their model is they survive off the service charge that they charge for per transaction. And that does seem to be viable. These companies have lasted several years, in one case, many years, and they do seem to be flourishing. So there is a market for that type of legitimate, lawful resale. The problem we have at the moment is within the last couple of years, because the number of touts has increased, we're now talking about 3,000 to 4,000 attacking UK ticketing systems. We've lost the ability to sell tickets to the public at face value. And then these so-called, they call themselves regulated sites, they're not. These big unauthorised resale sites that you see at the top of the Google paid ads are benefiting from that criminality by allowing touts to list those criminally acquired tickets through their sites.
Right, well, we will look at the detail tomorrow. As you said, the devil is always in that. Reg, I'm sure we will talk again on this issue. Reg Walker there, director of the Iridium Consultancy, UK lead expert on ticket fraud. Reg, thanks so much for your time, as always.
Thank you.
Well, in response to the investigation into their online pricing practices by the CMA, Viagogo said this in a statement: "We have continually engaged constructively with the CMA and will be fully cooperating with their investigation." In response to the government's plans to ban ticket sales being resold for a profit, Viagogo said, "Evidence shows price caps have repeatedly failed fans in countries like Ireland and Australia. Fraud rates are nearly 4 times higher than in the UK as price caps push consumers towards unregulated sites." This is from StubHub. They said the government's intention to implement a price cap on the resale of live event tickets will condemn fans to take risks to see their favourite live events. With a price cap on regulated marketplaces, ticket transactions will move to black markets. When a regulated market becomes a black market, only bad things happen for consumers: fraud, fear and zero recourse. The Princess of Wales has made an appeal to business leaders to put children first, not profits. Kate was speaking at the Future Workforce Summit in her first speech since she was diagnosed with cancer last year. In her address to over 80 business leaders, the Princess urged them to consider time and tenderness as much as productivity and success.
Every one of you interacts with your own environment: a home, a family, a business, a workforce, a community. These are the ecosystems that you yourselves helped weave. Imagine a world where each of these environments were built on valuing time and tenderness just as much as productivity and success. As business leaders, you'll face the daily challenge of finding a balance between profitability and having a positive impact. But the two are not and should not be incompatible. At the Centre for Early Childhood, we believe that we must do all we can to create the conditions for love to flourish. That is how we invest in our future.
Coming up on the UK Tonight, it's a kind of magic. We'll hear all about Sir Brian May's new book, taking readers on a 3D trip to the stars. And coming up in the sports, Serena Wiegmann defends her decision to replace Mary Earps in her first interview since the former England goalkeeper's controversial book came out.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of ESL.
Welcome to the DHL Sports Hub on Sky News. Coming up, reaction from Rory McIlroy after he wins the race to Dubai to become Europe's top golfer for the 4th year in a row. And reflections from Yannick Sinner after a year which started with an Australian Open win, then a drugs ban, before he returned to tennis to win Wimbledon and the ATP Finals. But we start with Formula One, and with just 3 races of the campaign remaining, Kimi Antonelli believes he can get his first win in the sport before the season is out. The Italian goes into the Las Vegas Grand Prix off the back of his best weekend yet since joining Mercedes. He started second on the grid behind Lando Norris, then stayed there both in the sprint and main race in Sao Paulo. The teenager is now looking for more, and cooler temperatures in the Nevada desert might just help his cause.
There's still learning to be made, and I think overall this weekend we've done an incredible job with the team. I think on my side, obviously P2 all the session basically. Really good weekend. I think we maximized the performance, and that's the best we could have asked for. Also, we gain a lot of points on the constructors. We just need to keep up the game. On my side, keep performing at this level.
Maybe one more step to go next time.
We need to make the last bit of step. Will be amazing to get the first win by the end of the season, but obviously we know it's not going to be easy. But who knows? If we keep up like this and we're able to extract the best out of the car, I think it's going to be very achievable.
Antonelli's not the only rookie who's been making a big impression lately. After finishing 4th in Mexico, Ollie Bearman was a solid 6th in Brazil and thinks he's set a sustainable standard for the rest of 2025.
You've shown that the car is there, your pace is there as well. Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, any reason why we shouldn't see you in similar positions there?
No, I don't think so. I really think, in these last 4 events we've been in the points back to back to back to back, and that's across really four quite different types of circuit. And we have 3 different ones coming up now, and I expect to be fighting in the points in all of them. That's the goal.
Isaac Hadjar is the other rookie in the top 10 with Antonelli after some good showings in his Racing Bull. Norris leads his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri by 24 points, with Max Verstappen 49 back. It looks to be between Norris and Piastri too for the 2025 DHL Fastest Lap Award. It's 6-5 in the Britain's favour there. Alex Albon took the prize in Brazil though, claiming the first of his career in the process. Ferrari are still 193 points ahead in the DHL Fastest Pit Stop, despite both their drivers failing to finish last time out. Red Bull are 2 points behind second top McLaren after Yuki Tsunoda's visit of 1.95 seconds. Verstappen was a popular driver of the day presented by Salesforce. He went from a pit lane start to the podium just a year after winning from 17th on the grid at Interlagos. Well, most of the rookies have had big moments in the season, with the exception of Franco Colapinto, whose Alpine team have put much of their focus on developing next year's car ahead of a regulations overhaul. They've kept faith with the Argentinian though, signing him on another 1-year deal to partner Pierre Gasly. That'll give Colapinto his first full season in F1 after he replaced Jack Doohan in May. While he's yet to score, he has shown glimpses of his potential in recent months.
It's the first time that I actually know what I'm going to do the year after, since I'm in F1, and I think that brings a platform to work with, and a base that what we are going to do in the future. We know that the car is going to be more competitive and that we are going to have a better chance. It brings, I think, all of us a lot of excitement and motivation, which is very good, and is what we were looking for.
From the outside, looking at you, it felt almost that every race weekend was an audition for your future, that it was a kind of pressure situation. Was it like that on the inside as well?
Yeah, it is a bit like that. That feeling that maybe it's your last race, it's constantly there and it's tricky, but it's something that I've been dealing with all my life.
On to golf now, and Rory McIlroy says he wants to beat Colin Montgomery's record of 8 European Order of Merit wins after moving 1 behind him with his 4th Race to Dubai victory in a row. Although Matt Fitzpatrick beat McIlroy in a playoff at the season-ending Tour Championship, the Masters champion only needed a top 2 finish to be the continent's leading player once again. A big moment for McIlroy after a year in which he completed a career Grand Slam of Majors at Augusta and also helped win the Ryder Cup. Topping the prize list for the 7th time means Montgomery's very much within sight for McIlroy, but for now moving into second position outright is the moment he's celebrating. His latest success takes him past the late Seve Ballesteros.
It's amazing. I had a conversation with his wife Carmen before I went out to play today, and you know, she told me how proud he would have been, and yeah, it's, you know. I said this on this green last year to you, he means so much to this tour and to the European Ryder Cup team, and we rally so much around his spirit and his quotes and, you know, everything he meant for European golf, and to equal him last year was cool, but to surpass him this year, yeah, I didn't get this far in my dreams, so it's very cool.
Just 6 months after returning to tennis from a reduced drugs ban, Jannik Sinner had a dream end to the 2025 season on Sunday as he retained the title at the ATP finals in front of his home crowds in Turin. The Italian beat Carlos Alcaraz in straight sets to claim his 6th title of the campaign, a haul which also includes wins at the Australian Open and Wimbledon. Sinner's 3-month suspension came after he took a banned substance but was cleared of intending to cheat as it didn't enhance performance. He's happy with his response on court since then.
There is for sure no better ending for this season. It has been an incredible season, so many ups, difficult moments obviously for various reasons, and you know, finishing the season here in Turin in front of the home crowd against the best player in the world, my biggest rival, it's amazing. I'm extremely happy to finish the season like this. Also realizing that I can play a high level for a whole week, it's amazing. It's especially the last months has been very, very positive for me, and of course now it's a bit of rest. It's also important, and then we see how 2026 goes.
In rugby union, head coach Steve Borthwick says his England squad are benefiting from working together on a long-term basis after the biggest win of his reign against New Zealand at Twickenham. After falling 12-0 down to the All Blacks, 2 George Ford drop goals helped England's comeback, with 3 tries after half-time leading them to a 33-19 victory. England's first home win against New Zealand since 2012 means they've now won 10 matches in a row after 5 successive defeats last year, including 3 to Saturday's opponents.
The team is developing, the team is growing. I said that at the time then, that it's a team that needs experience together, and that's exactly what they're doing each time. Go away each week and train really hard and being focused on what to improve. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's the kind of that's showing on the pitch.
The Ashes starts on Friday, with England optimistic that Mark Wood will play after a hamstring injury. Australia, by contrast, are without both Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood, meaning they're set to give a test debut to a fast bowler for the first time in 4 years.
Still feel they've got a dominant attack, whoever they have. Obviously the 2 guys, you know, missing obviously world-class players. But anytime you play Australia, you know that the guys coming in are also fantastic players as well, so you show a lot of respect to the guys that are missing out and the guys coming in, just trying to focus on, you know, what we can do well.
I feel like the group of bowlers that we got now, obviously the likes of Joff and Woody being in our squad, obviously the X factor, the pace, obviously the bouncy wickets definitely help the faster bowlers, and obviously the skills that we've got as a group. I think we can give it a good shot.
Now, more than 3 decades after their fathers twice fought in the ring, British boxer Conor Benn says he's focused on dropping back down from middleweight for a world title shot rather than a trilogy against Chris Eubank Jr. The pair followed up their April contest with a weekend rematch, and while Eubank took the decision 7 months ago, Benn was a unanimous points winner this time after putting his opponent on the canvas twice in the final round. While Eubank seems open-minded on a third bout, Benn's called out the current welterweight belt holders.
I think for me, winning the WBC world title is heavy on my heart, heavy on my mind. Getting that WBC world title was the belt my dad won. It was the belt I would love to win. It's my dream. So for me to be one up on my dad with the Eubank-Benn rivalry and also win the WBC world title, it'll be some moment for me.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of VSL.